Ladies and gentlemen, this is Alexander News Show, live from the Miami-Dade County State Attorney's Office. Waiting for the State Attorney, Ms. Catherine Fernandez-Rondo, announcing charges in the criminal complaint of corruption against Miami-Dade Commissioner Joe Martinez. I'll try to ask some questions, but there's a lot of media members here, so it'll be very hard for me to ask any questions, but we'll see. We'll see if we can.
Testing. Testing.
I'm not in the way.
Testing.
Sorry. Is that okay?
George, I can hear myself in here. I can hear myself through the speakers outside.
Am I good here?
Testing.
Yeah, but
Testing.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get the best I
leave
can.
it there, but
Good?
Yeah. We're good here? I'm sorry. Let me lower this down. All right, we're good. Trying to do the best I can. You know, welcome to, now you've got more competitors now. It's perfect. Get the hell out of the way.
Trevor, I'm plugging one in right here. Sorry. The state attorney has to walk through here, so we can't block that. So that's. The camera's low enough, I can put it right here.
Come this way, so
The
you're,
smaller one, yeah.
I don't know whose this belongs to, but they might kick over that thing, they're all gonna walk this way.
This is yours. Is this new stuff? Or they always like how many years? Yeah, interesting. Thank you. Pleasure to meet you, sir. Carlos. Alexander Carlos, yeah.
Bueno, necesitamos what she's wearing today. I think she's wearing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're waiting for State Attorney Catherine Fernandez-Rondo. She's running late, so please bear with the Alexander News Show channel. Waiting, this press conference is about Miami-Dade County Commissioner Joe Martinez.
this is your first conference. Yeah, see, I told you, you can select the one by the time you start, we were going to get it.
Is this okay?
Sure. I mean, the camera guys, as long as
That's what happens to me because I was late. I need to be here.
you go, like I said, you're in between something, you know, because you only got that one.
I'm like the baby here. I have a YouTube channel.
Oh, independent.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just trying to do the best I can. Thank you.
And guys, remember that any graphics that we might show or anything like that, you can request from Ed or Lorna, okay? And we can send them to you so it's in a JPEG. Like
Just
If it's on, you just have to hold, push down, yeah, you just have to hold. Right here, you just have to push the hold. Where'd you get it? It's the one that pushed
Okay, that's good.
Number six, huh?
Do you need a mic check?
Again? Yeah, so it goes from that camera.
Did everyone, I know we had some new people come in, did everyone put their phone on silent? Please do so.
Where's the water that was here?
Here.
Trevor, do a mic check for somebody.
I don't know where I
Mic check, testing, mic check.
Yes.
because I didn't know I'm trying to fast. That's probably why.
She's gonna hit record from there.
A little bit of stomach. A little overweight. So you do is you fast. But it actually works. You lose weight.
Square.
Alexander News Show. They mentioned 2 minutes. All right. I will try to ask the questions, but there's no guarantees.
Okay, she'll be coming in about 5 minutes or less, please.
Oh, you just get it down?
So she's running late, so just bear
They're
with
calling you guys, see whose phone rings.
Alexander News Show.
I got your back right here.
Does it change when we do that? Or maybe every time you push down, it just resets it. Is it always recording?
No, you said Hawaii?
I would have known. I would have waited.
Here, you want to come over here? It's recording right now. Mic check, testing 1, 2, 3. Mic check. Recording. Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I know.
Oh. Where are you gonna be, like that, standing like sitting down? If the person, I don't mind. Yeah. They're gonna be standing, just so that you know, they're gonna be standing here. Okay, if you put it in the center, then you can't stand there.
No, I'm just saying.
And then behind here.
I don't have a problem, you need to speak to your
With
colleagues.
colleagues.
Yeah, the thing is, what I can't have is a disaster while this is fired. Right? So,
Yes.
no touching the malt box, no touching, so where's your
Everyone get in your positions. Make sure your phones are off again.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to put that because I don't see who's here. So I don't know if you want to go on that side. But I have to.
Or maybe if I go that angle where that gentleman is, you think I can get it?
I don't know. But I have to be here. So you have to move this.
A second.
Yo estoy conectado.
All right, hold on. Let me do this. Hey, you don't mind if I take this spot here with you?
No.
Or share?
Where'd you buy this? Where'd you buy this?
Or my what?
That's my house.
You're late. You live with the worst spots. Always late. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I had to move spots, but it's okay. Thank you, my compadre. Alexander News Show live from Miami-Dade County State Attorney's Office, Miami-Dade County, Florida, USA.
In our community, we believe our elected officials are placed in positions of authority to better the lives of the individuals who live here and the community at large. That is the job we elect people to perform, and the overwhelming majority of our office holders serve to the best of their abilities. However, that is not always the case, which is why we are here today. Today, I am announcing the filing of 2 criminal charges against Miami-Dade District 11 Commissioner Jose Joe Martinez. 1 count of unlawful compensation, a 2nd-degree felony, and 1 count of conspiracy, a 3rd-degree felony. If you look up at the faceboard up here, you will see the charges there. The affidavit submitted in support of the arrest warrant details that in its simplest form, this case involves a public official using his office for his personal benefit. It alleges that Martinez knowingly and intentionally accepted monies from Jorge Negrin, owner and operator of Extra Supermarket, in consideration for Martinez using his official position and official office to address code enforcement fines and fees that were levied against the business on Southwest 8th Street. And he created and supported legislation to go before the Board of County Commissioners to legalize Negrin's and Delgado's situation. Martinez used his commission position to potentially assist the business owner, Jorge Negrin, and the owner of the commercial property, Sergio Delgado, and Calle Ocho Properties LLC, with their dealings with county government. One could argue that this is what an effective commissioner should do. However, the allegations in the affidavit are that Martinez reportedly attempted to get that same property owner to influence Ocean Bank officials to make a loan to Martinez's private sector employee, which benefited Martinez directly. In other words, Martinez knowingly and intentionally solicited assistance from Sergio Delgado of Calle Ocho Properties LLC in obtaining a specialized business loan. It's called a factoring loan for his employer, who was then Centurion Security, in consideration for Martinez using his official position and official office to create and support legislation potentially benefiting Delgado before the Board of County Commissioners. Martinez's employer was having problems paying his staff, and at that time, Martinez's paychecks could not be cashed because of insufficient funds. The affidavit alleges that Commissioner Martinez conspired with Jorge Negrin and Sergio Delgado to commit the offense of unlawful compensation. This joint investigation was undertaken by the Miami-Dade County Office of the Inspector General, also known as the OIG, my state attorney's office's Public Corruption Task Force, and so therefore with me today is our Inspector General, Felix Jimenez, who, as you know, is the Inspector General for Miami-Dade County. Good job, your office did a great job. Also his Special Agent, Misael Diaz, investigator for the Office of the Inspector General. Thank you, good job. And of course, Tim Vandergeest, who is the head of our Public Corruption Unit and has done just a great job. And we thank you for all that you do for this community, Tim. So the Office of the Inspector General began reviewing these allegations that Commissioner Joe Martinez was receiving payments and failing to disclose the income on the full and public disclosure financial forms, called Form 6, that are required by Florida statutes. These payments were being paid to Martinez while he was Commissioner-elect and while serving as a member of the Miami-Dade County Commission. So if you look up here for just a moment, you'll see on the screens that are before all of you, Negrin was the owner and operator of that supermarket there. It's called the Extra Supermarket. And it's located at 12890 Southwest 8th Street in Miami. Extra Supermarket operated in a strip shopping center owned by an individual named Sergio Delgado. And he owned it under the company name of Calle Ocho Properties LLC. So I'll give you a second to now go transform again to the next graphic that you'll see there. Calle Ocho Properties was repeatedly cited by the county commissioners, by county inspectors for having multiple cargo storage containers on its 5-acre commercial property. You can see there, that is the whole shopping mall. You'll see right over here to the left. This is the market. This is Extra Supermarket here. You can go back to that, and I was going to show you the 6 containers. Can you go back one? George, can you go back one, please? Okay. And these are the containers. Storage containers, the multiple storage containers that are on the property. You'll get a closer look if you go on to the next one, George. Thank you. You'll get a closer view. That is the size and more or less the proportion of the cargo containers. Now, a Miami-Dade County ordinance only permitted at that time, and still does today, 1 storage container on a property of 10 acres or more. The Extra Supermarket, though, claimed it really needed this additional storage capacity to operate its business. So Jorge Negrin kept multiple containers on the property behind his business. As a result, code enforcement repeatedly cited Calle Ocho Properties, Delgado, for violating this county ordinance. Rather than paying the citations and eliminating the violations, Negrin and Delgado allowed the fines and fees to accrue to a total of $25,000. Negrin and Delgado apparently hoped to resolve the citations through some other means. When Martinez was reelected as county commissioner in August of 2016, the cargo container code violations against the Calle Ocho properties were still pending. When Martinez was commissioner-elect, the week before Martinez took office, and a couple of weeks after taking office in November of 2016, Negrin paid Martinez $10,000 in 2 separate checks. One, the first check was $5,000. It was dated November 14th. Again, you'll see that up on the screen. It's a check from Extra Supermarket, payable to Joe Martinez for $5,000. Now Martinez is actually sworn in on November 22nd, 2016. The second check was after that. It was dated December 6th, 2016. And again, if you look up at the screen, that is the December check. Now, prior to those payments, the last time that Negrin and Martinez had any business dealings involving financial compensation was in May of 2015. I would really ask all of you to look at the timeline that the officers have put in the affidavit that outlines that. On February 27, 2017, the affidavit goes on to allege that Delgado emailed Martinez requesting help with the storage container violations. Following that, a few things happened. March 1st, Martinez's check from his employer, Centurion Security, for $1,153.92 is deposited into Martinez's bank account. March 1st, Martinez texted Delgado and quote unquote, if it's about the containers, rest assured we are working on it. March 6th, Centurion Security check bounced and it was returned unpaid. The affidavit says that this is relevant as it shows why Martinez solicited Delgado's help with the factory loan that I mentioned earlier. That same day, March 6, 2017, Martinez texted Delgado explaining that Martinez's chief of staff, her name is Bustamante, will be at the RER code meeting. RER stands for Regulatory Economic Resources. It's the head of code enforcement. On March 25th, 2017, a third check for $5,000 was issued to Martinez from Extra Supermarket. In March 2017, Martinez's office, his chief of staff, did attend a meeting with Delgado and Negrin and the Miami-Dade County Code Enforcement Director, Ricardo Roy. The purpose of the meeting was to try and resolve the outstanding fines and fees for the storage container citations for Delgado and Negrin. They also discussed legal options for keeping the storage containers on the property. Shortly after that March meeting, Bustamante initiated the creation of storage container legislation that would permit Delgado and Negrin to maintain the multiple containers, storage containers on the property. So now look at the next graphic, if you will. There is Negrin's check dated March 25th to Joe Martinez from Negrin on behalf of the Extra Supermarket. And remember, this is the same period of time we just talked about. Between March 2017 and August of 2017, the container legislation is progressed through the county attorney's office and through Martinez's office. Martinez was directly involved in developing the container legislation. Martinez elicited information from Delgado for the legislation. For instance, how much acreage does your shopping mall have? Martinez proofread and made changes to the proposed legislation. Martinez and his staff reportedly led Delgado to believe that new container legislation was forthcoming and that it would benefit directly Delgado's property and his tenants, while also relieving Delgado of the existing fines and fees and pending citation fees. That was their goal. On August 21st, the county attorney's office advised Martinez that his requested changes were done. It then gets scheduled to go on the calendar before the Board of County Commissioners for September 7th. Shortly thereafter, on August 23rd, Martinez puts a hold on the container legislation. And that same day, he has a telephone conversation with Delgado. Yet 8 weeks later on, in October, Martinez is asked by the Office of Inspector General Investigators. And he tells them, I don't remember who Delgado is. Ultimately, Martinez did withdraw his legislation from consideration by the county commission. While Martinez was creating the new container legislation to benefit Delgado and Negrin, Martinez solicited Delgado's assistance to help Centurion Security Group get a business loan from Ocean Bank that would benefit Martinez financially. The company that Martinez worked for, as I said earlier, the Centurion Security Group, was having financial difficulties and needed to pay its employees, including multiple checks that went to Martinez. As is laid out in the affidavit, Martinez had not been able to cash his paychecks from Centurion in 2017 due to insufficient funds in the Centurion payroll account. Martinez's compensation from Centurion was a significant source of income for him. He claimed when he reported his income for 2016 that the money that came from Centurion Security Group was about 16% of his income. And then later, in 2017, he claimed it accounted for approximately 17% of his income. There were numerous communications from Martinez seeking updates as to the status of Delgado's efforts with the bank. So Martinez sought an additional benefit from his interactions with Negrin and Delgado during the time the new container legislation was being developed. After becoming the commissioner-elect in August of 2016, Martinez asked Delgado in September of 2016, a month later, and then continuing through 2017 for help tapping the businessman's contacts at Ocean Bank. Martinez was trying to wrestle away control of the private security contract that Ocean Bank had with a different existing security vendor, so that it would benefit Centurion Security Group, the firm where Martinez was working as an account manager. Ultimately, the proposed legislation was withdrawn by Martinez, and Delgado never secured for Martinez an Ocean Bank official willing to lend Centurion Security Group money, or an official willing to replace the bank's existing security vendor with Centurion. In sum, the investigation uncovered the following activities. 1, Negrin paid Martinez $15,000 in 3 payments of $5,000 apiece between November 14, 2016 and March 25th of 2017, while Martinez was an elected Miami-Dade County Commissioner. Number 2, there were inconsistent explanations that were given to the Inspector General. 1, Martinez claims, I don't know who Delgado is. And he says, well, the money was part of a loan. And then he says, well, it was a gift. And by the way, neither the loan nor the gift was claimed on his original filing of his financial disclosure form, nor was it on his income tax return. When Martinez was questioned about the 3 $5,000 checks, as I said, he first explained that the monies were partially for a loan, and then he said they're partially for money that was owed to him by Negrin. Martinez says it was for a private business deal, except that the private business deal that they referenced occurred over 3 years before Martinez took office, and there were no other payments related to that deal made to Martinez for over a year and a half before he retook office. There are no documents formalizing or explaining why Negrin would owe Martinez the $15,000. Number 3, Martinez arranged for members of his commission staff, to attend a meeting on March 13th, 2017, between Negrin and Delgado and the Miami-Dade County Agency Code Enforcement Director, Rick Rory. And of course, there were other code enforcement employees that were present. The purpose of that meeting was to address code violations on Delgado's property that were the result of those storage containers that Negrin used for extra supermarkets. Number 4, Martinez, as a Miami-Dade County Commissioner, facilitated in advance the creation of legislation to benefit Negrin's business in Delgado's property by starting a process to change the number of storage containers that were allowed on that commercial property. Number 5, Martinez solicited help from Delgado for a private business, Centurion Security Group, for which Martinez was a paid employee. This is while Martinez sought Delgado's assistance for Centurion. Remember, Martinez did this through his official position. And the assistance that Martinez was seeking from Delgado would have benefited Martinez financially. So, under Florida law, these acts, even if they were solicitations rather than completed transactions, constitute the felony crime of unlawful compensation. If you go to the screen, you'll see the definition. Under the law, unlawful compensation under Florida statute 856.016 states, prosecution under this section shall not require that the exercise of influence or official discretion or violation of a public duty or performance of a public duty to which a pecuniary or other benefit was given, offered, promised, requested, or solicited was accomplished, or was within the influence, official discretion, or public duty of the public servant whose act or omission was sought to be rewarded or compensated. Commissioner Martinez has surrendered and been arrested. The judge has authorized the $15,000 bond. Let me just conclude by saying that the prospect of a public official soliciting funds to benefit himself or his business associates is there are a lot of good, hard-working people in government who respect and honor the public's trust. You have elected many of them. You know many of them. But those government officials who use their position and staff for private purposes always undermines the confidence of voters and taxpayers. And this can make people at best apathetic or at worst cynical about the government that serves them. I've said many times, and oftentimes with our Inspector General and our head of our public corruption task force standing here today, that we hold public officials to a high standard. And none of us will tolerate these kinds of activities and actions in our county. That's why the work of our public corruption task force and members of the state attorney's office, public corruption unit, and the office of the Inspector General work so hard, and their work is so important. But it also, we need the public. We're always asking for your eyes and your ears. Every member of the public, of our community, has a role to play in our effort to keep our government corruption free. You see a graphic up here. It has the hotline number. If you have information regarding governmental corruption, please call that hotline number. It's available 24/7. It's at 305-547-3300. After all, the government and the community you save, that you assist, they need your very own. Thank you. At this time,
Mr. Mayor, one quick question with respect to the timing. If this was back in 2017, right?
I was just about to introduce our Inspector General. Can we let him say a few words, and then then what we'll do, it will be the first question, I promise. We'll open it up to questions in English, then we'll break down, we'll do Spanish, and then we'll open Spanish questions, okay? Thank you, appreciate it. Our Inspector General, Felix Jimenez.
Thank you, Madam State Attorney. Good afternoon. This investigation started with an anonymous complaint that eventually led to a review of Commissioner Martinez's financial transactions, included his required filings with the state of Florida. This ultimately led to additional evidence which you saw presented today. These actions corrupt the system and erode our trust in government. The OIG is committed to investigating these crimes at all levels of government. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. There is never a good time to charge an elected official. Hopefully this answers your question, sir. This case involved the taking of numerous witness statements, the analysis of hundreds, if not thousands, of financial records. These things take time. It goes through a very rigorous and time-consuming review by the state attorney's office. And I know we don't want to hear it, and we've all had COVID fatigue by now, but COVID did play a role in the delay of this case. And I just want to say, it was not 5 years, it was less than that. Many of you were in this very same room not too long ago, a couple of months ago, when we discussed the arrest of a county commissioner's former chief of staff. That case took 5 years. And that was a very involved case, which again, took a lot of work, and we had to get it right. There are facts in the arrest affidavit where Ms. Rundle has so eloquently gone through, and this is a case that has to be tried in a court of law, not in a court of public opinion. And as it progresses through the courts, there's going to be a lot more information through the discovery process that you all will be privy to in due time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll now take your question.
Thank you, appreciate it. No, I was just curious, Tom, he answered the question.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty involved in thousands of hours, I would imagine, and.
Over here.
Kathy,
Any
I
other
have before you, hi, Peter, actually.
Hi.
How are you? Your biggest concerns about what this case is?
Well, I think that what we have said is that, anytime, it's not easy for us to discover that people who are elected and serve in a position of trust use that position for personal benefit. And so, obviously, all of us, I assume you all as well as journalists, find it offensive. So it's offensive.
Ms. Rundle, basically the timing, there's speculation that this could be politically motivated because Mr. Martinez may seek the same office you may seek in 2024, the sheriff's office. I'm hearing that sometimes.
Is that a question or is that just?
Can you elaborate on that?
No, I'm not, it's,
I think the question is, will you be running for sheriff in 2024?
oh my goodness, absolutely not. No
Okay.
interest.
I have a question for the Inspector General.
That really should be for a police professional.
I have a question for the Inspector General. Or State Attorney. So just about the timing of when this investigation started, I know the Inspector General's office had a case in 2016 relating to illegal funds that went into Joe Martinez's campaign. And there was you guys issued a report, there was an arrest in that case. Did that case have any kind of nexus with where this started or any connection?
So we have a lot of preliminary information that came out from different sources that eventually led up to where we are now. I can't comment any further on that case for certain reasons, so I just can't comment on that. But there were prior information that we looked into that ultimately led to where we are today.
Question over here.
So when you have interviews with Negrin and Sergio Delgado, kind of corroborating Martinez's, at least one of his stories, how do you take this kind of thing to a jury
with a slam dunk, here's the evidence chain, there is no doubt?
You know, what we do, Glenn, as you know, is we do the best we can with where the evidence takes us. And this is where the evidence took us. Now, as our Inspector General has said, we presented the facts as they were in the affidavit, as they were received, and now we do it in a court of law, and we present it with due process of his rights, and he'll present his defense, and from now on, it'll be in a court of law. And we'll see what the judge and the jury decide.
Yeah, of course, but I guess the question is, he hasn't said anything, but through his statements, you know, we've seen publicly, everyone knows where he and his attorneys are going with this. He's saying these were private dealings. You don't have any evidence of those private dealings, but you don't have any evidence that they're not. So how do you get around the fact that he was out of office for 4 years, whatever kind of dealings he did were private? How do you get around that part?
Well, we believe when you look at the affidavit, that the evidence for the monies we're talking about, the evidence for these show that it was not a private deal. There was a time in the past when he was entitled to have private, he was in private practice, so to speak. But these monies, while he was in office, were received in compensation, like the affidavit says, for the things that could help Delgado in the grant with the shopping mall and the fees and the fines and the legislation. So that's what a jury's going to decide. You know, not all of these cases are, you know, cases that where you have somebody videotaping it or a body-worn camera. So that's all I can say. You just follow the law and the evidence, and the rest will be up to the judge and the jury.
So are you saying that other parties that were named here? I mean, the other parties that other people that were named in your statements, Delgado, the staff members. Is anything going to happen to any of them, or they?
Well, I believe they've given statements to our investigators and worked with them, so I assume they'll be part of the case. It'll be presented. Really, everything's going to go to the courts at this time. We don't really try our cases in the court of public opinion, if you like. This is just the facts, the affidavit, what happened, what he's charged with, and if he's been arrested.
So are you saying the checks prove the intent to get legislative change and accept?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. I know, I'm sorry about the math.
It's okay.
You can keep it on.
Right. Are you saying the checks prove the attempt to get legislative change and accept money for legislative change? The checks prove that?
Well, I think when you read the affidavit, and it's all outlined, so I know it's a lot of different facts and time frames, but I think when you read the affidavit, that the payments and what was being done at that time, that there seems to be a direct correlation between them.
Enough to convict him?
That's what the affidavit says.
Enough to convict him?
Again, you know, that's a court of jury and a judge will make.
But your office. But isn't that what your office seeks to do, like attempt to convict him?
Yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take it to court and see if we can.
Ms. Rondo, will this be the start of your state attorney's office? By the way, I'm a fan of yours. But will this be a start of your state attorney's office going after unverified public corruption in all of Miami-Dade County? Will this be something new that you'll start doing?
So that question about unverified is kind of insulting to all of us standing here. We don't charge people unless we take it all very seriously. Every single one of us. We review, we scrutinize, we try to do the best we can with the evidence and the law. And so we will continue to do what we think is fair and right and just, hold those accountable that should be held accountable, and those that shouldn't be won't be.
Are all the facts included in the warrant?
Yes, they're all in the warrant.
There's a part, though, that says not all the facts are in there.
I'm sorry.
There's a part of the warrant that does say not all the facts are included by the OIG?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay, that's
all right, we good for English? Okay, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Glenn.
No, I have to go. This is Alexander News Show signing off. Thank you. What?
Let our Spanish folks.